Hello and welcome to the Social Recruiting Show. I'm Katrina Collier. I'm, of course, author of the Robot Proof Recruiter, which you do get to see every single time, which our guest is a huge contributor towards. Oh, we've even got another copy. I am also a facilitator and speaker. I'm, of course, joined by my gorgeous co-host, the very talented talent acquisition professional, the one, the only, the amazing Glenn Martin.
Hola. Oh.
And that could be a giveaway as to who our guest is this week. Yes, he's none other than another talented talent acquisition professional, sourcing guru, my CC, the one, the only, the amazing Steve Levy. Welcome to the Social Recruiting Show. Steve is a very big contributor to Chapter 5. And Chapter 5 is crucial to this book.
I know the difference between 9:45.
Oh, yes. Sorry, in the middle of coronavirus gate, I didn't realize the clocks had changed in the US onto daylight saving. So I apologize. It is 11 a.m. there, not 10 a.m. there. A bit of a shock when Steve was online an hour ago.
Yeah. Only if somebody like your co-host had pointed that out to you, Katrina.
When he noticed.
Helped,
but anyway, it would have maybe. Anyway, we're here. We're up. We're running. It's all happening. So this week, before we go into, who Steve is, for those that actually don't know, we're talking about crisis management and talent acquisition, which seems quite apt, to be fair.
Definitely.
But before we get there.
Yeah, surreal times, everybody, right? I mean, I think everybody's been impacted by COVID-19, whether it be kind of directly or, kind of events, your day-to-day work, your job, movement. It's, surreal times.
Good. So, Mr. Levy, because you've been through 600 crises and you're extended at a career, tell us who you are. You just give us a snapshot of your background, and I'm going to time limit you to 2 minutes because it's obviously a very long background.
For those very, very few people that don't know you, Steve, I mean, and we will be taking names of those individuals.
There's still, Glenn, we will not be doing that, and this is not going to be a long introduction. I am Steve Levy. I am an engineer who crossed over to the dark side. As you can tell, I earned my HR certifications. No, I am a technical sourcing lead for a bank. This is unsponsored. I'm not wearing any bank paraphernalia because banks are appropriate, very conservative when it comes to these things. It's a process. I'm finishing up my first year there, and it has been probably the best situation I've ever been involved in, but that's for a later date. I'm one of the original members of ERE. I write, I speak, I make jokes. I have no idea who Mark Lundgren is.
Lundgren. He spent a year getting me to pronounce his surname correctly.
That's fair. That's really rich. A couple of things. I've been very interested in for many years in community building around our profession. And if you're really ever bored, you can go online and search for me using 3 words: Steve Levy Recruiting, and most of that crap's mine.
At Levy Recruits as well, isn't it? Your Twitter handle.
On Twitter, yeah.
Mr. Mark Hopkins, I agree. I'm also sick of hearing about it, but I think we really do need to start talking about it, though. Oh, I don't know who this person is, actually. This might be one of your friends. Steve who, another one. You definitely are getting some shit.
I had to put my pants on because I actually can't.
David Blueville? Steve who?
If we can get hashtag Steve who trending at any point,
it would make a change from what's currently trending, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
By the way, my friend Dave Bluevall has been a stay-at-home dad for a couple of years. Ridiculously smart. Was in HR. Is in the New York area. Is in lockdown mode in the town that he lives in. But look him up online and hire him. He and I have been friends for like 45 years.
Cool.
So speaking of lockdown,
yes.
So obviously the world is going into lockdown now. There are many trains of thought on that, and in my inner circle are aware I'm very vocal about that, having my ex-husband as my flatmate, who is reliant on going into work. If he doesn't physically travel to his work, he doesn't receive any money. And there are lots of people in that boat. But because we knowledge workers, it's much easier for us to sit and say, oh, no, we should all sit and work remotely. So it'd be good to talk on that. But also, what we feel that talent acquisition can be doing to support, to be making interview process still helpful, or if companies just stop hiring, or I don't know. I'd love some Levy pearls of wisdom.
Well, I part of it is a little perspective, and I'm not barking up the wrong tree. Get it? See, puppy came on your lap and barking up the wrong tree.
I was reading Steve's comment. Lee's comment, I mean, sorry.
Lee and I spoke last night. I mean, I called Lee up, and we talked about, nobody knows the crisis I've seen. Nobody knows.
So, okay, so you've 9/11. Glenn and I have July 7.
Well, yeah, we know. Actually,
but you've also been through .com, haven't you?
And Lee and I were reminiscing and working backwards. We have the the 2008 crash. We have the obviously 9/11, but 9/11, you put the .com bubble burst worked very poorly with Y2K and 9/11 to put together just a 3 or 4 year period of just which was horrible, but we'll get back to that for a moment. There was the 1987 crash, which was what this current, from a stock market standpoint, that's what this one is being compared to. There was,
to be fair, Glenn and I were still at school.
I understand, but just to put it in perspective, there was also the post Iran Contra situation, 1981, 1982, the oil embargo. People were waiting in line for literally for hours upon hours. I remember those, clearly. But I'm going to focus on from the .com bubble burst forward. Some of the realizations were, companies just stopped hiring. It was not there for the Great Depression, Mark. I hate you. But it was highlighted by people simply not knowing what to do. And we're running. My opinion, I think we're running into the same situation here. It comes down to basic, treating humans as humans. It's that in there.
I just saw that. No, sorry, I just saw Mark's comment, which you'd addressed, but I hadn't quite seen Mark's comment when you addressed it.
I'm a little quicker than you today. It's okay.
That's okay. My father was actually born at the end of it. He was born in 29, so it's not that long ago.
No, and my father also, he's 96, and so we'll pull in how this is all personal to all of us.
Yeah, it is.
But the inability to effectively communicate, good, bad, and ugly, is a hallmark of bad crisis management in any time in
Because I was having a conversation with Liz Dowling, and she's talking about people right now in the interview process, right this minute. They're already in, right? And then this is hit. They're not being communicated with. And she says, why aren't people just saying, I have no news? No news is good news. They should be doing Stacey Zaper's Friday Blitz. Steve, I've got no news for you, but I'm on it. I haven't forgotten you.
And I do the same thing. Every person, I mean, this is my personal mantra. Every person who I've ever contacted, I say, look, at any point in this process, you can call me, you can text me, you can WhatsApp me, you can email me, you can do whatever you want to do, but I am here for you, and I'm not going to let the fear overrun the humanity in the process. And I know that sounds really mushy coming from me, but Pete Radloff is right.
Yeah, he's right. Well, he's sitting here.
Pete says this is where people's sense of community comes into play, and ounce of prevention, common sense, and deep breath would be advisable. So be telling people, if you don't have any news, I don't have any news. Carly,
tell them you don't have any news. Don't ignore them. Don't just.
And I think uncertainty creates a very different reaction in people, though, isn't it? Uncertainty and that kind of ambiguity.
Because when
people are waiting for direction, aren't they? And so they're not taking action because they're waiting for direction.
Correct. And when they're not given any, Glenn, they'll make up their own answer.
Exactly.
And the answer is not what you want. This is classic, brand management, crisis management. It's the you don't have it. It's not always sunshine, puppy dogs, and things like that. You know, there's righteousness in honest news, even if it's bad news.
I love this, isn't it? What you're saying, Rob White, peace of mind calls, POM calls. I love that. Just update people. But even again with that no news, it's still, you're still just offering some reassurance that they're not forgotten. That when this blows over, and it will blow over because we've been through, so many, haven't we? Eventually it will blow over. They're still there. They haven't dropped out altogether.
No, and when people realize, Glenn, I think when people realize that hoarding toilet paper is not the answer to a crisis,
I mean,
when irrationality finally starts seeding a little bit.
But your point at the top of this intro, Steve, around building communities, right? Sometimes in a crisis, people tend to, go inward and they think about themselves and their immediate family. They don't naturally go outward and think about the wider community, their next door neighbors, the people they're connected with. And maybe if that, that kind of reflect on that and start to think about the wider community when the government starts to advise about, kind of different precautions you need to take, instead of just thinking about washing your own hands, just be mindful of the implications of what you're doing for the wider community and people around you, right?
The irony about that point, Glenn, is that think of all the companies that tout that their community mindfulness, that out that we're there for the community. We live, our customers, our people, they're our most important customers, except during a crisis, but we're not going to tell them jack shit anymore.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's interesting because you see the ones that are. So I have a trip booked to do the Kokoda Trail in Papua New Guinea later in the year. And Intrepid Travel have been in touch with me, telling me exactly what's going to happen. So I now feel completely assured if I go ahead and pay for the entire trip, exactly what will happen if it's postponed or cancelled. And I feel really reassured. Like that's really, it's such an easy gesture, isn't it?
Look, it is. Like, I had several trips planned over the next couple of weeks, and right when this started to reach a fervor, and I think it coincided with much of the news that was taking place in when Italy moved into the number 3 spot. All the airlines where I was booked on, all the hotels where I was booked on, some of the places, where I order things online, emails, and they've been constant. And I know some people view those as help me with the word. It's been a long time. This show should have been an hour ago with the interruptions.
Sorry, Mr. Levy. I didn't notice the daylight savings in the middle of my week.
They're not interruptions. Yeah. I know what's behind it. I know they want to keep me as a customer.
But why is it they want to keep you as a customer? We don't seem to want to keep our candidates. Why can't we emulate that?
Well, because
because what?
I think candidates. It's effing stupid. It's totally nonsensical to not view as a positive experience as a positive experience, whether we're teammates or not. Isn't the whole goal? We preach the mantra: if not now, then maybe sometime in the future. Well, guess what? I had somebody today who I did a drip campaign to last night come back and say, "Look, I had a great time in that town, but back when I was a customer of your bank, they treated me like crap. Thanks, but no thanks. Adios."
Yeah. I've had that conversation, haven't I? People are very aware of my feelings towards NatWest because of that. I would never work for them because of my one business manager. Go, Glenn.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Steve, so, practical stuff. You're heading up a team of recruiters at the moment, agency side or in-house. What are you telling them to do during this period of time?
Well,
what actions are you saying, hey, make sure you're consistently doing what?
I mean, you're consistently reaching out to people. You don't pitch them. If you start pitching people right now, because what I'm finding, I was talking to several other recruiters this week, early this week, and going, it's quiet. Normally I get people responding to me, and I can get hold of people, and people have turtled up this week.
Yeah.
And I think the important message is to frankly reach out to everybody you can and say, look, this is impacting me too.
Yeah.
This is affecting me in ways that I had not thought about. And just look, there's some folks who are just never going to respond to that, and that's.
It's interesting. I'm finding it's a bit like, you get the split with Trump, and we've had the split with Brexit, and we've had that's what I've been having this week.
Yeah.
So for me to follow UK guidelines and to run my event on Tuesday, I copped so much abuse for running it and not running it. Like, it was like whether I should or I shouldn't. It was like there is a lot of divisiveness going on. So I think you're right. I think we do need to bring it back and say, I personally am feeling like this. It's impacting me in this way.
Yeah. Like right now, I realize now it might not be a good time to fly into another city and put yourself in a tubular petri dish and then get in front of other people and breathe on them. But it doesn't mean I still can't ask you about what your goals are. And what do you like best about where you are now? What do you like the least? If you had the chance.
But doesn't this kind of show that also that maybe we could reduce our reliance on flying people in? I mean, look at us. You're in New York, Glenn's in Cambridge. I'm here. No, you're not in Cambridge. Where are you? Norwich. I'm here in London. We're having a perfectly great chat. People are chatting with us from all over the world. Do we need to be putting people in a petri dish, which just sounds so lovely, doesn't it? On any day of the week. I mean, is this a great time for us to manage our managers?
Well, it's more than just managers. It's, as I likened it, you put people on a petri dish on a trip to Cootieville, and it's part of what I do is I try to make light of things that are so miserable and challenging, mostly just to get people off this maudlin, oh my God, we're going to die. Where's the toilet paper? But the way I liken it is any crisis is an opportunity to look at every aspect of your talent acquisition world. And in no special order, I built years ago capability maturity model for TA, and it looks at talent acquisition along 5 key axes: strategic planning, organizational impact, processes, systems, and metrics. And and there are delineations as to rough delineations to what's a beginning, what's an improving, what's succeeding, what's leading. I know I'm going the wrong way.
Told you it's mirrored.
It is.
It's not the way you think it is.
That's one of the challenges of doing the show on a Friday, not on Monday. But we have a chance to look at this and ask, look at every process that's ingrained in our current world. Keep it, ditch it, or change it.
Yeah,
totally. So that links neatly into Stephen Telford's remote revolution, and we were chatting about this before we came on air.
Oh, this isn't his beard comment then.
Yeah.
Oh,
about how you have to trade your beard so you can wear a glass.
Yeah. But so the remote revolution, we were talking about it, weren't we, Steve? We were sort of saying, companies will make that change at the moment because they have to. They've been forced into. It may be illustrated to them that remote working can work, but actually they'll probably just default back into the same working pattern post-crisis. So what advice would you say to them, about this period of kind of remote working? Observe it, take some metrics from it, reflect on it, or actually it's fine for now and continue to kind of sort of BAU when the crisis is over? Well, is there an opportunity, I guess?
Well, of course there's an opportunity, and to answer your question, Glenn, it's a little bit of all of those things. Part of it is it's a mindset. It's really a change in mindset. We all three of us know people in TA or HR who believe that it's a privilege that you get to interview with my company.
Oh, right.
Rather than flipping it around, it's and going to the communities, going to the people, going to the street and asking people, what would be best for you right now?
Yeah.
And I say right now because it doesn't mean it can't change and go back.
That's it, right?
So going back to my earlier so there are lots of people who fall on the extrovert side who actually really need to be in office. They really need to be around people. But there's also the knock-on impact. So there are the people who are on 0-hour contracts if they don't go to work, or they're freelance, or they're self-employed. If they don't go to work, if they don't physically turn up somewhere, they don't get paid.
Yeah.
And it's like asking them what they really need right now as well. I'm going to sound horrible. There's a lot of focus on the people with underlying health conditions right now, and not a lot of focus on the other vulnerable people, who are the people that really are on low incomes, who don't have more than a month's. They just live month to month. And who are genuinely going, what am I going to do? Now, it's really great that the UK government's gone, hey, S&Bs will cover salaries eventually when they pay it up, after the S&B is potentially folded. So it's... you're right. We should be asking people what they need.
And there's the economic piece as well. I was chatting to a chap this morning called Ben Davies, and he was talking about what they class as zombie companies that are basically like borderline. They leverage on all that they can loan and lease out and sell, and the margin is so finite that something like this could just basically wipe them out. Simple as that. You know what I mean?
This pandemic is wiping people out. Just say, all three of us, we speak at conferences, and just think about, South by Southwest was canceled, and the impact to the Austin economy alone was $375 or roughly $1 million. That's not bailout territory. That's companies going out of business, forever. This is a digital course correction.
I found that call really tough as well, because there was no coronavirus in Austin when that call was made. And that's why, so the fight I've had this week with tiny little comparison, like event, massive event. I get what I'm saying here. But there is one case amongst 650,000 people in Cambridgeshire, and I ended up having to postpone because global companies were saying their employees couldn't go into public gatherings. They're allowed to go to the supermarket, which is probably more of a petri dish, but they couldn't. And you're kind of going, oh my gosh. So the knock-on impact to lots of people just from my tiny weeny little event. It's like it's a bit early. I understand we're trying to delay it. I get that. But
it comes back to that point about companies, Katrina. You say, South by Southwest compared to your event, but you're an independent business. So you're an independent business, and the money you've lost from Cambridge impacts you. And you will be one of a number of people in that situation as well, where they lose money from these things. It's not as if I think there's a very real economic impact to those kind of small to medium scale businesses. I
mean, let me more close. Let's sort of maybe bring it close to home. I think this will resonate well. In no particular order, my family, we were planning a vacation to Italy. My hon's mom is 88 years old, first generation American, still has land in Italy. She hasn't been back there in decades, and we were going to go with her, everybody, the stepdaughter, everybody. Well, that didn't take place now, did it?
No. Well, I meant to be on a plane to Gibraltar on Tuesday and flying strangely back from Spain, but they reckon Spain will be shut before then. So that's not happening. That's been cancelled.
How's your swimming?
It's a land crossing from Gibraltar into Spain. I could walk. However, I wouldn't be able to fly back. There'll be no planes. I just outright. I mean, what about the cost to airlines, right? Like, and the thing is that, if I had got, you're absolutely right, Michael. Yes, we should. I mean, we should pray for everybody that's feeling vulnerable. I'm not denying that. We're trying to have a rounder conversation on it, though. The insurance companies won't necessarily pay up either, because it's a communicable disease, and I know some governments are saying you must, but I'm sure they'll find their loopholes.
Yeah, totally. Stephen.
Well, the other part of it, personal, and this is why this becomes, we have to find some way to, revisit the humanity in all this. Is it's not just me. Look, I turned 61 at the end of this month. I guess I'm in that category of people who
won't get a ventilator.
Well, it wouldn't ventilate because you realize on Twitter the trend. One of the trending topics is boomer remover. Look,
crazy, man.
Not only is this pandemic highlighting the humanity in people, but it's
highlighting the lack of humanity in people.
Abject assholeness of people who feel they have to use it as a springboard to treating people poorly. But look, the reason why we need to have the conversation as to how we can significantly and distinctly modify how we attract, hire, and retain people is to be able to address the reality of people in their lives. I had plenty of places to go, but I can't because Leslie has, she has an autoimmune disease. I'm not going to put her in jeopardy. I don't care how much I am. I don't care how much you pay me. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if your entire company is healthy, and it doesn't matter that little kids, as much of a petri dish as they are not the ones who are being impacted by this. It's without being aware of how the disease runs its course, and taking that into account when you design your processes, you are putting everybody at risk. Can you imagine the companies that aren't making any changes and they insist on flying people in only to have the person come back?
But it's like you kind of wonder why they need to do that, though. I think it's far more happens in the US than it does with here. I could be wrong.
Well, part of it is I don't know if it just happens in the US. I
meant the flying thing because your country is so big. So, why can't people get on a video chat? Why can't you get through? Why can't you get through all of that at least before you get to the face to face?
To answer that question, Career Crossroads opened up a forum for anybody on the outside to participate in. And so someone put up, I'm looking for recommendations on, say free. Everyone wants free online whiteboard software. So we
people pay for stuff.
We do these things. They're available. I think
they are available. And can I just have a note on that?
Yeah.
If you use the software day in and day out, there are human beings behind that software. It doesn't just appear. People support it, pay for it, for goodness sake. It really winds me up when everybody wants everything for free. And in the sourcing community, as you know, that's huge. But there are people behind that who are also want to put food on their table, want to keep a roof over their head. And I'm going to get off my soapbox because this is your show. Sorry. It just frustrates me. I'm paying the software to put this on LinkedIn right now. Huh?
It's Glenn's turn.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah.
You just hit it.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Steve, do you think companies and hiring managers now need to get comfortable with making decisions about a hire purely based on virtual meetings? And if yes, how do you think they can circumvent that? Because I think that the natural, or not circumvent it, how can they get comfortable with it? Because I think the natural inclination is always at some point to meet somebody face to face. It's just ingrained in us to do that. What difference
does it make?
Well, that's my point. What difference does it make?
How do we
sell that back?
Well, honestly, it'd be lovely to have some comments on that. If you guys actually think that you changed your decision from having had this much of an interactive conversation to physically meeting them in person.
Here's a reality. Here's what really happens in purpose when you're in person interviews. You size people up. Your biases often take over.
Say that again.
When in person enables bias to creep in. By the way, bias can creep in at any point in time.
It could creep in now. I could just hate bald people.
Now,
like, seriously.
You don't know how good I see.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
He heard it and ignored it, I think.
I do know
He's
that.
my CC. He'd just ignore me.
but that's really what it's about. You know, you want to size people in their head. I'm going to size people up.
Oh, you mean that might be shorter or taller than you? So you might feel a bit intimidated.
It's like the HR version of the dating game.
Oh, and there goes Katrina. She disappeared. She tapped the wrong button.
While we're doing this, Glenn, it's our show now. But
exactly, yeah.
It's almost like the online version of the dating game. You know, when people, you look people up, you look them down, and you go, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Focus on performance. Now that's the other side of things. Do you normally, if you're a person, if your job requires you to actually physically interact with people, then I can see, there's a prima facie case for, I want to see how they respond in front of real people. I get that. There's a performance element to it.
Yeah.
But
okay, so what about Sophie's then? My company is we've gone fully remote. Yeah. We'll be recruiting and onboarding remotely.
So I'd be really interested.
Where you're located?
Yeah.
London.
She's based in London.
Okay. Tech company.
I'd be interested to know from Sophie whether that was something that happened right from the beginning, or they've implemented that. So if they've implemented it, how they managed to get the company.
There goes. So we can't actually write comments on Facebook, so feel free to answer that. Debbie. Idiosyncratic behavior reveals itself best in face-to-face settings. People want to make sure you aren't hiding something weird about yourself.
I mean, like
that's quite ironic coming out of Debbie.
I can do this live or in person. It doesn't really matter where I am. Part of it is, but I call them idiosyncrasies because only idiots notice them.
Yeah.
And part of the challenge is we all want to remove bias. We look at technology to remove bias for us.
Yeah.
Make the difference change yourself.
Hey, here's a good one. Mohammed.
Got it. Yeah, Mohammed, I just saw that.
Mohammed's comments, interesting. You can't replace the face-to-face, and you can't expect a candidate accept a job without having seen the offers, getting a feel for the culture and making the commute. That's true.
Very true.
But I think what we were talking about earlier, where we were saying, let's ask the people what they want.
Yeah.
So if your hiring manager is insisting on it, that's different to saying, well, okay, where do you feel about the offer? And they might be like, I really want to come and see the place first. Then that's kind of different. At least we're giving them the opportunity to not come into the petri dish
without mandating it, right?
Quite frankly, I don't. Most people would say, "Yeah, I'd love to see the office. Let me see what it's like." Am I going to be required to work there? No. Well, fine. Okay, no. Yeah. But it's a lot like online dating and getting a wife from Russia. Via some book or not. At that point, if you don't care, I mean, I guess if it works for online brides, maybe it'll work for jobs. So,
I mean, interesting. I sort of think of the technology. I've done. Someone wanted to rent my flat, so I did a video tour of the flat for them and sent it to them, so they could do that before they got in the car and came there and looked. So there's like two ways of looking at it. It's certainly getting some great comments, which is great.
Yeah, and that's reasonable. It goes back to we still have to be in a position and be willing to deconstruct how we are doing our hiring. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong. It's like, we take personal inventories of our lives once a year, and then maybe that's what New Year's is for. Why don't we let events like these or help us do the same?
Yeah.
Can we have a greater impact on our company if we increase the number of remote workers? I mean, what deep down into why do we have to do face-to-face? Because I just want to make sure you're doing your work.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is, their software technology works. There are multiple. When you hear it work, we have Jabber, we have Teams, We have these things called phones. They're magic.
I know. We remember how to use them.
With them.
But I've been working at home for, I must be coming at 10 and a half, 11 years. And the technology has just got easier and easier and easier. It is now far easier for me to work from home than it was 10 years ago. It's there's no excuse.
What about a company that says, well, how can we build a really effective culture if people aren't there in person to interact?
Well, Buffer have done it. Buffer are entirely remote.
GitHub is 100% remote, and they were kind of attracted to Microsoft when they bought them. I mean, part of it, look, a culture, regardless of whether it's in person, I'm looking for the answer up on my wall. The culture, regardless of whether it's in person or virtual, it's not something that is defined. It's something that's lived. I don't want to jump it down to the gutter here, but the saying, the fish, leads from the head, or the corollary of this, shit rolls downhill too. So if the person who is in charge, the folks up at the top, are engaging online, they're calling, they're sending you messages, and it's ongoing, and they're saying, look, you're doing a great job. I'm 100% remote. I would like to be up in the office more, but I'm not, and that may not happen for a couple of weeks now, but we'll touch on that one. I'm reading Mark's comment.
So Envision, sorry, I should show this one first. Envision is 100% remote. The CEO does an all hands on Zoom from his all hands on Zoom from his home in New York. I read that out all wrong.
She's a good friend of mine, former boss. Love her to death, and it's about the people you hire. You can hire people to for remoteness. Remote 100%, man. Sensitivity, if you want, you can do that. You can have, like, right now I'm doing a great deal of recruiting in Canada. So
cool.
I do all my, and people, look, this is what I look like. You're making a really important human decision, and it's important that you get to know the person who's talking to you, who's going to help guide you through the process. Absolutely. I wear funny hats, and
I agree. Antonia has a really interesting comment. No, we told you about that.
Yeah.
Antonia has a really interesting comment here. Sorry, no, it wasn't Antonio. Oh God, sorry, it's Dan Hawes.
Dan, I was going to say that.
Yeah, sorry. Apologize. I'm sure her comment's great too. I just missed it. Which recruitment agencies are 100% remote and are profitable? I find that so telling.
I don't know, but I'd love to know.
Yeah, but I don't see why not. Again, I run a perfectly fine business by myself for 10 and a half years without needing my boss breathing down my neck. Mind you, my boss is lovely. Antonia's comment's also good, so I'm going to read that out. My last company, we hired people completely remotely due to international hiring. It was working very smoothly, and culture wasn't impaired through that. I believe it even decreased biases. My current company right now is also moving to remote hiring processes. However, they are missing the face-to-face interaction already, so it is an adjustment period.
Definitely.
Those are private messages to you, Katrina?
Sorry?
Are those private? They're
on LinkedIn. It's just that we can't ring. That's why I constantly tell people to go and watch on Facebook, because then I can go show the comment, Michael's comment. LinkedIn doesn't allow any of the live streaming software to
LinkedIn's not friendly.
It doesn't allow remote access.
Remote access, no plugins.
No, there's no hooking in so that you can actually see all the comments in one place. We can't actually answer the Facebook comments, which is interesting. We can answer the YouTube ones. So anyway,
Michael's point is really interesting. It's asking managers, it's asking managers and leaders to think about the way they do lead and manage in a very different way. It's not just purely face to face. So I think it's a really valuable. It's valuable to have that.
Well, that's Michael is good. He works for a company where you can do that. The only way to get better at managing virtually, is to have these meetings. You're not going to get better at anything without doing the activity.
So in a way, this crisis is causing people to have to learn to do that. And if there is to be any sliver of anything good coming out of this, it is that actually they realize they can trust their people and they can work autonomously. And, you know, I mean, surely you're hiring grown-ups. Isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Totally. I think it's really about trying to...
Are you insulting us and calling us grown-ups?
Yeah, I know that is insulting.
Yeah, easy,
well, I said it, my inner child was going, Katrina Collier.
Your point is really important. It's that, you know, whatever precepts you carry with you as baggage throughout life, you know, these are opportunities to seriously consider and reconsider what you're doing. And if you're not changed by, you know, people suffering, you know, then you've got some other problems that you know, no one, not even, you know, people like, you know, Matt Charney or William Tincup can help you solve. No humor, nothing is going to help that. You're fucked up, you know.
Absolutely.
And it's unfortunate that we have to go through things like this to realize that you know, change is and it's such an easy thing. Changing is pretty darn good. You know, but you have to be receptive towards it.
Absolutely.
I'm with Debbie on that one, and with you as
really
well.
Do help bridge the gap when there are concerns about lack of employee engagement in community.
For me, WhatsApp and, you know, kind of Messenger are the sort of go-to channels, right? I mean, you know, it's kind of, they're so immediate, and you can do, you know, I mean, it's like you and I, Katrina, we'll be typing, and then you'll be like, yeah, I'm doing something now, and I'll get voice messages.
75,000 words. This thing killed me. I hate my keyboard. And I was just going to say, so it's really flexible. So Steve, you love a video chat. You love to call at the most inappropriate moment, like I'm on the loo or something. You suddenly the video chat's going through. Hence, I never answer. But like Glenn will send me a message, and I'll send him back a voicemail, or I'd rather send back a video. Like I don't want to actually necessarily live chat, but I think that's when I was saying, like, in the 10 years, how far it's all come. And again, if the three of us have three different styles of how we like to communicate on just one channel, you're kind of going, why aren't we giving people the opportunity to work how they want to work? Exactly. The technology is there. The ability to do that is there.
The question I asked during screening calls or video calls is, you know, what does a person who is your boss need to do to get the most out of you?
Yeah.
These are not hard questions, and I'm not looking for any answer. I don't have an answer. I'm not slotting them into things. I mean, there's things I want to find out about another human being. I put it in the notes. I make people aware of it. And you know, a person says, "Look, I've been working remotely for 10 years.
Don't put me in a room."
You're not going to hire someone like that and make them come to an office. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
And I think it's this idea. I mean, offices are kind of built for extroverts, aren't they? They're built for people who need other people's energy to work. I just hide me away from people and let me work privately.
So that's a really fascinating point that Steve has made there, is should companies now be adapting the role and the way the role can operate for the individual employee, as opposed to thinking about our dev function sits in an office in London together, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Whereas you can offer them multiple different types. That's a big leap for a lot of companies, I think.
Look,
but they're being forced to make it right now. So
you're right. Right now, this is a potential paradigm shift in how companies hire. And again, it's not the first time companies have to do this. But, you know, when I first started in the business world, when, you know, T-Rexes were roaming the planet, it wasn't industrial. You know, I had a closet full of suits and ties and shoes, and it was horrible. I had horrible nightmares as a result of it. No, not really.
Imagine the tattoos. Imagine the impact they would have had.
Well, no,
tattoos back then.
No, imagine back then when I had a full head of hair and a couple of earrings in my ear. That was different. It was a different time. True story, by the way. but it's changed. My people, we can fight tooth and nail.
Yeah.
About holding on to things that have gotten us this far. Or we can, look at ourselves in the mirror and, and have honest conversations about, really need this.
Do you know what's coming to mind while you're saying that is like the abuse that I caught in the last week about whether I should or shouldn't run my event. This actually wouldn't have happened 10 years ago.
No,
people would have just gone to work. There wouldn't have been make people work remotely, slow it down. It would have just happened.
No, and this
I hadn't even thought about that.
The wonderful thing now is if you're sick, stay the hell home.
Yeah. But that should be all the time.
But it's not. And
people go in with colds and flus and pneumonias all the time.
And think of, you spoke earlier of folks who are hourly workers, who are paycheck to paycheck people. It's not doable for them.
Yeah.
Maybe now it's like, ooh, we have to rethink how we're doing this, because people can get really sick if someone comes to work.
Absolutely. Here's a question.
Crises cause people who truly care to have these honest conversations about topics that they wouldn't normally speak about. This reminds me of a couple of years back with the the police beatings of black men, and it brought forth conversations about race that we just
hadn't had,
but we didn't have them for whatever stupid reason we could make an excuse. We're running out of excuses. There are pivot points here. Business is nothing changed. It's global, but talent's in control. I'm sounding a lot like Jung Kim. Jung Kim's a wonderful course based out of Chicago, New York. Very, very wry sense of humor. Worth following just because for his little snippets of snark.
Snippets of snark.
I actually call him talent. Yeah, I don't call them talent. I don't call them candidates. I don't call them. They're people.
You call them people. I hope they're people. Yeah.
But the bottom line, the people whom we covet, are we going to push them away, or are we going to draw them close?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we choose that, if we decide we want to draw them close, then we're going to have to change the way we interact with them.
Can I
not during the hiring process, but during the working process?
But I think a lot of what we've been talking about, though, are knowledge workers, etc. So I don't know why John wrote this. I assume it was in reaction to something we said. But I don't think enough companies are thinking about this side. And I touched on that earlier in the show.
I agree.
I know we're very concerned about it coming in. Are people getting sick? The people they love getting sick. But I think we also need to look at the other vulnerable, which is the 0-hour contract people who we have to just need to go to work. When we stop work, they don't get paid. That's
exactly
really quite terrifying.
Same for that individual as a business, right? If you're just going to turn around and say, hey, the next 2 weeks, you're not going to get paid any money. Well, you could send them into, below the poverty line based on that alone.
I know that. Yeah. One thing I'd like to see come out of this is again, go back to a model of talent acquisition, recruiting, whatever phrase you want to use, and start having conversations and shared thoughts on how crises impact how we plan out. How it impacts the organization, our core processes, the system that we use, the metrics that we use to measure it, and this is not going to end. This is simply not going to.
There'll be another one. There'll be more. There will be more. Just to make you feel better, as we're actually running out of time, but I thought we should end on a bit of a high rather than a low, because this has been a quite serious show. Because you said that you started with the dinosaurs. Jerry Crispin mentioned that he might have started with the plankton. Untrue, Mr. Crispin. Untrue. You're not a day over 50. Right.
No comment from me.
Yeah, no comment is comment in itself, right?
Recruitment God.
By the way,
actually, no, I'm going to add this. Sorry. Shopify and Canada just issued 1,000 stipend for all workers, permanent contractors, to enable them to work from home instead of being in the office. Cool. That's cool. We need more of that.
Good. Damn it! Now I can't recruit from Shopify. Dang. Thanks, John.
Yep. Mr. Levy, I'm sorry, I do have to cut you off. I'm sure we could talk about this all day, and it's a really tough subject. And I know there were some questions there that we haven't answered about software and things like that. So, I hope.
Well,
we certainly shall.
What were some of the questions, for example?
Were you allowed to stay on for a few extra minutes? Julia had a really good one, actually. Could you suggest any video interviewing platforms which runs on the private cloud? Lots of companies have restrictions on using platform which uses public cloud.
Yeah, we call those financial institutions and defense companies. There is. I will look into that. I know I put up on Jerry Crispin's Career Crossroads forum a slew of.
Does Jerry give you £1 every time you say that? Oh.
He didn't do
that. I'm going to get him to do that for the social recruitment.
Jerry's daughter lives close by me, and
right.
every time Jerry comes around, he goes, "Come on over."
I want to see Jerry's cat. That's what I really want to see. Anyway, right. So you're going to look into that.
Let me look. I know I put a whole list of really good, whiteboard software up there. Let me look for the video stuff on the private cloud. Like all these, anytime you're dealing with software that interacts with a company that has real secure issues, they probably have something like a DMZ architecture in place to protect things. It can get a little dicey, and there's not a single company that I know that won't work with your cyber people to deploy some sort of secure, SSO solution. So I'll hop into the track.
Terry just said yes to my question about whether he pays you £1 every time or $1 every time you say that. So.
he pays me in alcohol. He plies this young man with alcohol. I shouldn't have said that.
Red wine. Right. Anyway, on that note, we are completely and utterly out of time. To everybody who's tuned in, thank you. Obviously, stay safe and healthy. We will be back next week. Have our clocks changed by then? If not, it'll be 11 a.m. I will actually check before 11 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. GMT. I've again forgotten who our guest is because I'm that organised this week. It's been one of those weeks. I'm very happy to get off the ship and just let the week end. Mr. Levy,
I have to go back to work now.
I believe you may have to shave your beard to make it fit properly. Thank you so much for being our guest.
Thanks, Steve.
I couldn't understand a word. It was too sieved.
Didn't get that at all.
Didn't get it at all.
Absolute pleasure, though.
Likewise, you always.
There's Audra tuning in just as we're finishing. Right.
Bye, Audra.
Thank you, everybody, for all of your comments, questions, and for being so interactive. Very much appreciated. And stay safe. And we shall see you next week.
Thank you.